There's not very sharp knives in this part of town. What makes you tick? Oh? Well, you're awake then, are you? Just put my specimen down. Now, you've had a bit of a rough ride. Tell me, how do you feel now? Well, I can tell you that you were in a much rougher place, being with my rather unsociable, uncivilized counterpart. I believe you had the pleasure of meeting Miss Maiden Mai of the River Wye and the Forest of Wabe. Yes, she's certainly a charmer, isn't she? Now, tell me, can you move your extremities, your fingers, your toes? Then we're off to a better start than I was previously thinking. That's a good thing. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a little bit more of a closer look at you. So, I already have a hypothesis in my mind as to what's going on here. I've seen this a few times, however, I do need a little bit more of a confirmation, if you will, as the treatment is somewhat unpleasant. Is that fine with you? Do I have your permission? I do apologize for your particular predicament. It's not easy being green. Now, forgive me. I suppose you're much more familiar with a typical white, starched, pressed shirt. Oh no, I know. You are not from around here in the least. No, my otherworldly companions do not understand. Curious thing, really. But I believe I have myself sorted. No, I used to be like you. I know where you came from. I know where you've been and where you must go. You must go back. But now, let me organize myself here. Oh, forgive me. I haven't even introduced myself, have I? Well, it's been quite a pleasure meeting you. You've mostly been unconscious for the most part. Now, myself, the other beings of this particular realm call me Alice. But in another land, in another time, I was once called Dr. Alice Sharrow. Once upon a time, I had a lovely home, a sister, a crotchety, rigid sister. But that all changed when I fell into that damn rabbit hole. That's how it all begins. Now, I've had to relearn the craft a bit, as medicine in this particular world works much more differently. Now, I suppose you are more used to a traditional latex sanitary glove. However, the only thing I've been able to pick up as far as protective equipment are these thick gloves, but they'll do the trick. And if we are dealing with what I think we're dealing with, then I really want to be as protected as possible. Always wear protection, especially if you don't know where your partner's organs have been. Oh, dear me. I did forget. Unfortunately, when you find artifacts from the main world, at least the one I'm from, they do tend to be a little mismatched. We have a left hand, and we have a left hand. But for our particular predicament, I believe this will work just fine. Now, I think first, electricity does not work very well here at all. The whole physics and mechanics of this particular world are incredibly curious. So I do have to use just a standard box of matches. I had a former patient who was so kind as to bring me back some when she went back to the other world. So, in addition to that, I have just a standard candle, and this will have to be our light. Again, really, it is a wonder how any of these creatures survive. But that's not for me to decide. I really haven't been here that long, contrary to what some of the creatures think. So we have a small lit candle, and I'd like to just, well, I won't burn you, but I will have to get quite close. I just want to have a little look-see at you, if you will. Now, that's a deer. Thank you. I know, I found that you really cannot speak except for guttural sneeze kind of coughs. It's rather awful, I imagine. But there are certainly worse things, believe me. Well, I noticed that my beloved Mai had tended to some wounds of yours and cleaned them up for you. Yes, she is quite a sweetheart, however, not the smartest match in the box. I would like to get a little bit of a closer look, if you don't mind. I'm just gonna hold this up and look at you. There we are. Messy, messy, messy. Well, she did try her best. Well, luckily, I can fix this. But I will have to do just a couple more tests. Now, as I said before, the mechanics and the physics of this particular place are incredibly wonky. So, back in my home, I was able to use a stethoscope. But here, this does the trick. I'm going to put this up to your chest, darling, and I'm going to listen to it with the other ear. We're going to figure out how that tick, tick, ticker is coming along. Alright. And there we go. Okay. Now can you just breathe in quite slowly for me? Inhale. Slowly, slowly. And exhale. Slowly, slowly. Inhale. Slowly, slowly. And exhale. Slowly, slowly. I'm going to come around to your back. Inhale. Slowly, slowly. And exhale. Slowly, slowly. Well, it's a little rapid. Your heartbeat, that is, a little rapid. A little stringy, even. Now, who would have thought of a particular universe where that works better than the modern sciences, modern technologies? But alas, stethoscopes do not work. Sphygmomanometers can't get the mercury to rise right. It's always fluctuating back and forth. As well as thermometers. Do you mind if I have a feel at your forehead? Unfortunately, that's the best way that I can gauge your temperature. Yes. A little on the cold side, but that's how it is. That's how it goes. So I'm going to do just one last little peek at you. And this time I'm going to use a couple of cotton swabs here. And I'm just going to kind of poke at you. I just want to pull apart some of these wounds a bit. See how that's setting in. No, I don't like how that was done whatsoever. I will have to give that little lady a lesson in medicine. Now, the great diagnosis. Now, I don't expect you to know what these are. However, you have unfortunately come across one in your troubled journey. Now, have you seen or heard of the mome raths? That's right, the mome raths. 'Twas brillig in the slithy toves, did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All the mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. It's their sound, the mome raths. Quite haunting, really. But I digress. Now, the mome raths are a medium-sized, maybe about a meter and a half tall, and they are akin to a greenish boar with a quite long corkscrew nose, as unfortunately you have started to take on. Now these mome raths, these green boars, they bite. They bite quite viciously, with a little added benefit of having a venomous bite. Now, when one is subjected to the mome rath venom, they start to exhibit some changes, some physical changes, and they will eventually turn into a mome rath. Now, the residents of Wonderland seem to be immune. However, the residents of other realms, such as yours, such as mine, they are not so much. And the mome raths do love a good piece of ass. So, unfortunately, my dear, you are their piece of ass. You've been bitten by the mome raths. So we delightfully call this mome rath disease. And it is a bit unpleasant, the cure, but we will cure you. Part of the cure is that you will have to leave the realm of Wonderland. And I imagine after the experience you've had, you cannot wait to get out. And another part is I do have to find the bite and clean it and burn it. Not so fun. So, do you mind if I just look at your extremities? I wasn't really looking for a bite at first, but I would like to just feel here. They have a very distinct pattern of bite. I mean, you would think that the boars would have a different sort of set of teeth than a human. However, they look quite similar to human teeth. Extremely off-putting. Oh, there we are. Right on your forearm there. Mai did try to close that up. She stitched that awfully. But I do see the bite there. Is that tender? Quite, yes. I do apologize. Well, good news for you. Now that we've found the bite, I can begin cleaning it. And luckily for you, we have just a little bit of disinfectant left. Pure alcohol does not tend to keep very well here. Really, this whole world just maddening. Now I'm going to use one of my cotton swabs here and dip it in to my disinfectant. And I'm going to just swab at the wound. I know it stings, honey. I am sorry for it, but we need to get you on your way. If it's not treated, you'll turn into a mome rath. And I don't imagine that is a very pleasant experience. Alright. I'll finish your wounds, rest of your wounds later. I am going to cut some of that stitching out and disinfect. Okay. This may sting. I do apologize. And some more antiseptic. And there we are. Now, as I said before, I really do apologize, but we will have to cauterize the wound. Now, I don't really have anything for you to bite down on. Please do not break your very human teeth. Now, if you could just hold still, please. I'm going to just hold this on the wound. I know, darling, I know. Almost done. And there we are. All finished. I'll lightly tap on that, I know. Okay. Now, we're going to clean your other wounds. So hold still for me, please. Thank you. And you had another one on this arm, correct? Yeah. And again, I'm going to cut out some of these stitches here. Alright, hold still, please. Just pull some of that out. Okay. Your other arm. Disinfect. Again, curious thing about Wonderland here is many of the residents seem to have just appeared. I've not encountered any families. All of the beings tend to be orphaned, and they just appear. I haven't been able to study that too much further, but it does beg the question as to where they come from. However, they seem to know of different places where one can get out of Wonderland. But let's call these gateways portals. Now these portals jump from location to location, which is part of the difficulty of getting in and out of this particular place. Because once you go through a portal, it doesn't necessarily stay there. It may for a time, but ultimately it could be a day, a week, a month, and then that portal will dissolve and a new one will form. I've been told that the Alice of legend came from both a rabbit hole, which I came from, and a mirror. So there are different ways of getting into Wonderland and different ways of getting out. Now this time, dear, I'm going to stitch you back up a little better. I have a much better cord as well as a much better needle. I imagine from what you've gone through, it won't hurt too much more. One thing that I've found is that all the creatures of Wonderland know who I am. However, I do not recall meeting any of them. But from what I've been able to gather is that I am Alice number 367. They all change, and they all start with the same memories. So I recall my childhood, and I've been told that every single Alice has had the same origin, came from the same place, harbored the same memories, but ultimately are all different people. I'm going to thread this needle. I'm going to start with the wound on your arm here. Hold still for me. Now, I have not run into any other beings called Alice here, but it seems that they stay for a bit of time and then they disappear. I've been here for 12 years. In my particular time. So who knows how long I'll be here, but there will always be another Alice. And I seem to have been the only doctor so far, which has greatly improved the lives of a lot of these Wonderland folk. Now I'm going to stitch up that wound, okay? Let me get some more thread here. So It's a very odd place with extremely odd physics. There doesn't seem to be a due north. Hold still, please. There doesn't seem to be a particular climate or any sort of regards to day or night. It seems to always be the same time. Except all the clocks in this realm, they all read different times, but when one opens the clock to examine the innards of it, they're all empty. So there is something quite queer governing this world. Thank you. Now I'm going to finish this wound on your other arm. Really, the only thing I can gather is that this is a very peculiar, paradoxal place. But you know, I don't mind so much. Hold still. I've called it home for several years now. I think it's treated me quite well. The residents of this realm are quite insane, but it's kind of refreshing. They're all honest. They have no reason to lie. And for the most part, they tend to be very sweet in their own way. So I don't mind. And there's only a few beings that I would really rather get away from, rather. The Jabberwock, the Bandersnatch, mome raths. Ugh. There we are. I'm gonna finish disinfecting those wounds. I wouldn't change it for the world, but I don't believe any man or woman will uncover the mysteries behind this place, but I think that's the particular beauty of it. No one will conquer Wonderland. And it will always be a different place, different versions to different people. Something quite poetic in it, really. Right. I'll look a little closer just to make sure that I have you fixed up well. Wonderful. Now it seems that the last portal seen to your world is in the Forest of Wabe. So I will send you back with my darling Mai. We will get you back home, far away from this place. And I do implore you to please stay away from mirrors and rabbit holes. I must thank you for being so quiet. I know it must have been hard, but I thank you. Alright, my darling, I do have specimens to dissect and Wonderlandians to round up and try to take care of. But I do hope that you remember your time here, and I hope that overall it ends up being quite pleasant for you. But thanks for seeing me, even if it was somewhat against your will. Thank you. My darling, you can take our beloved guest back to where they came from. I have quite an interesting organ to play with.